Highgrove House in Gloucestershire was built on a single, uncompromising principle: privacy. For over 40 years, its organic gardens were meticulously cultivated by King Charles as a personal sanctuary, a place far removed from cameras, royal duty, and public spectacle. Yet on a quiet afternoon, a single calculated move transformed this private haven into a battleground of quiet desperation. When reports surfaced that Meghan Markle intended to film scenes for her upcoming lifestyle brand on these sacred grounds, palace aides hit a wall. What was presented as an elegant olive branch to bridge a fractured family was quickly exposed by court insiders as a high-stakes commercial play. The collapse wasn't loud. There were no public screaming matches or fiery press releases. Instead, it ended with a cold, polite no behind closed doors. How did a simple visit devolve into a silent catastrophe that nobody in the inner circle saw coming? The court records, security logs, and private correspondence paint a very different story, one where every attempt at reconciliation carries a hidden price tag. Highgrove is more than just stone and soil. To King Charles, it represents decades of patience, a living monument to his environmental beliefs built long before he ever wore the crown. Every hedge, every flower bed, and every organic farm technique carries the weight of his personal identity. It is quiet. It is deliberate. It is an escape from the relentless machinery of the British monarchy. Contrast that with the world of Montecito, a world of high-end aesthetics, digital streaming metrics, curated social media feeds, and the constant, breathless demand for fresh content. When the Sussex team first floated the idea of visiting Highgrove, it was packaged in the softest possible language. It was framed as an olive branch, a private family moment, a chance to mend fences away from the flashbulbs of London. But royal security protocols are designed to look beneath the surface. When estate managers reviewed the paperwork, they didn't just see a son visiting his father. They saw production schedules, lighting requirements, and technical writers. The unspoken rule of the institution had been crossed. Private family spaces are never, under any circumstances, turned into a backdrop for commercial leverage. The air in the room shifted instantly. Aides realized the visit wasn't about healing a family rift at all. It was about creating content. And for a king protecting his life's work, that crossed a line from which there was no turning back. The request was approved in principle, until royal archivists noticed a detail in the paperwork that changed everything. In the modern media landscape, personal access is the most valuable currency on earth. When you operate multi-million-dollar lifestyle brands, every personal moment has to pull double duty. It has to look authentic, but it also has to drive engagement. Behind the scenes, Meghan's production team was building a visual identity around rustic elegance, quiet luxury, and pastoral charm. What better backdrop than the most famous organic estate in the United Kingdom? To the team in California, it must have looked like a win-win. They get breathtaking visuals for their new venture, and the public gets a heartwarming narrative of family healing. But they miscalculated the deep psychological chasm between the old world and the new. Charles's philosophy is rooted in a slow, generational pace where things are built to last quietly. Streaming culture demands speed, immediate payoff, and constant monetization. You can feel the tension in the way these two worlds collide. On one side, a father trying to shield what little privacy he has left. On the other, a couple fighting to stay relevant in an unforgiving cultural marketplace. Every phone call, every draft of an itinerary, and every proposal carried a heavy load of suspicion. When family heritage becomes content, where do you draw the line? If you were in Charles's position, would you lock the gates to protect your life's work, or open them in hopes of keeping your family together? Tell me your thoughts below. While the cameras were being prepped in California, a private memo was already circulating through Buckingham Palace. The breakdown didn't happen with a bang. It happened through the quiet, unbreakable machinery of institutional bureaucracy. When palace aides, legal advisors, and estate managers sit down to evaluate risk, they don't lose their tempers. They simply slow things down. First came the scheduling conflicts. Important estate maintenance popped up on the exact dates requested. Then came the administrative questions regarding camera crews, liability waivers, and copyright controls over the estate's visual likeness. Each requirement was entirely reasonable on paper, but together they formed an invisible wall of red tape. There was no public shouting match. There were no dramatic headlines in the morning papers. Instead, it was a masterclass in bureaucratic freeze-out. Every time Meghan's team tried to lock down a detail, a new condition appeared. The message was polite, entirely professional, and devastatingly clear. Highgrove's gates were locked, not out of malice, but out of protocol. The records show that the project managers realized the truth long before the public did. The visit wasn't just being delayed. It was being rendered completely useless for their timeline. Meghan's team realized the visit wasn't just delayed. It was rendered completely useless for their project. Look past the strategies, the brand launches, and the court memos, and you find a much simpler, sadder human reality. Living inside an intense spotlight changes how you look at people. When every text message, every phone call, and every family visit is analyzed by the public, genuine connection becomes nearly impossible. Prince Harry was caught right in the middle of this architectural deadlock. On one side stood his father, a man who has spent a lifetime wrapped in duty and guarded by tradition. On the other side stood his wife, building a modern commercial empire and looking for a visual bridge to heal a broken past. He was the bridge between two worlds that refused to speak the same language. History is full of families torn apart, not by grand betrayals, but by the slow erosion of trust. When you can no longer tell the difference between a family gesture and a business strategy, warmth turns to ice. That is the true human cost of this story. Not a canceled filming schedule, but the realization that some bridges cannot be rebuilt when every brick is weighed down by public suspicion. We've all experienced moments where a breakdown in trust makes it impossible to go back to how things used to be. It's a painfully human dynamic, whether played out in a modest living room or across a historic estate. With Highgrove's gates firmly closed, the Sussexes were forced to pivot, but the damage to their strategic narrative was already done. The aftermath of the Highgrove collapse was deafening in its silence. In Montecito, the public relations machine pivoted quickly, erasing any trace of the failed venture and moving on to the next product rollout. In London, the palace issued no triumphant statements. They didn't need to. The silence itself was the message. This moment marked a permanent shift in how the British establishment deals with commercial requests from non-working royals. A new line was drawn in the sand, one that is legally airtight and practically unbreakable. Family is family, business is business, and the two will never again share the same zip code. Back in Gloucestershire, the morning mist still settles quietly over the organic gardens. The hedgerows remain untouched by commercial lenses, pruned only by gardeners who answer to a king rather than algorithm. The public continues to debate who won and who lost, missing the quiet truth at the center of it all. Some sanctuaries are meant to stay hidden, and some doors, once closed, are never meant to open again. The closed gates at Highgrove revealed a clear boundary, but it wasn't the first time a royal olive branch turned into a public stalemate. To understand how we got here, click the video on screen now to explore the hidden contract that broke Prince William and Harry's bond long before Montecito.